Hey there everybody, how's it going? It's Austin from Boss here today at Kraft Music, and right now we're about to go over the GT-1000 amp and effects processor. So this thing's really cool. It's kind of pushing the boundaries of technology a little bit. So I'm going to go over a couple of points about that. One of them is going to be the 32-bit floating 96 kilohertz ADA converter that's inside the GT-1000. So why is this so important? Well, the current market and the way that ADA processors are working right now are at 24-bit. At 32-bit, you get a larger dynamic depth range just from the input and output sound alone, which is really, really nice, especially to get the maximum effect of what makes a tube amp so great and makes it feel so great. And then the other half of our technology is going over what is called AIRD, aired or Augmented Impulse Response Dynamics. So what does it stand for? Well, we can break down that impulse responses, right? For those who don't know what an impulse response is basically a snapshot picture of an amp. It is basically the modern day of amp modeling and recreating amps in a digital realm. But the problem with using traditional IRs is that they only capture the speaker and the cabinet resonance that the amp is coming out of. It's not capturing the essence of what makes the amp so special. It's only capturing one half of that, because in tube amplifiers, the system is bidirectional. So as soon as you're playing sound into the amp or any tube amp, there is immediate negative voltage that comes from the speaker back into the amp, and it makes the amp move around. It makes all the small components in it talk to each other and stuff, and it creates this organic cycle. So that's what AIRD is kind of recreating, because we were able to capture the voltage impulses going back to the amp for all of the amps that we chose to model, which is pretty cool. So stock inside of this, you get pretty much our ones that you found in our GT-100 and GT-10s, pretty stock and standard amps. We've also added new amplifiers as well, kind of a mixture blend of a bunch of really cool amps all together. Like, we kind of like the low end, the mid end, and the high end from these three amps, so let's just mix them together into this thing that could sound really cool. Also, we featured 4 parallel routing effects chains. So this is really, really cool for guys that are heavy into signal routing, or maybe choose to use a tube amplifier with the GT-1000. So this is cool because I can send separate effects and separate amplifiers to different outputs. So now I can have the house PA sound have a different sound than what my band is hearing on stage, or maybe something closer to what was recreated in the studio. So that's one really, really cool feature about it. The other thing too is the output routing signal, which is pretty awesome. So you get stereo 1/4 inch outs as well as XLR outs as well. Those are sub outs. And you also have 2 effects loops built in. So this can be really cool to integrate your own effects. So if you have some compact pedals that you really like a lot, you can integrate those in with the system. Or you can use this for the 4 cable method or the 7 cable method, which is actually pretty cool. It's 4 cable method in stereo. So now I can almost use the preamp of my amp as a pedal in my effects chain, which is pretty awesome. You can also add buttons and expression pedals and stuff like that to add more controls. And then you also have the USB on it. And the USB is really cool because this is a 2-way road. You can either send audio to a DAW, or you can use computer editor apps to load in your own IRs or to edit the sounds directly from the computer. And for the very first time with Boss and Multi-Effects, we have now integrated an iPad and iOS Android app for you to control the GT with, which is actually pretty fun. So I can basically go in here and not have to bend down and mess with all my preset settings and stuff. I can do it right from an iPad, which is pretty awesome. So enough of me talking about the unit. Let's get into some of the sounds. This one, I'm going to show off a little bit of the dynamic range of it. So as I dig in a little bit harder to the amplifier, you're going to notice that there's going to be a little bit more grit attached to it. And then when I back it off, you'll notice that the grit not only just fades, but it actually fades evenly to the dynamics that I'm playing at. So here is kind of your British-esque type of amp sound. So you notice as I dug more into the amp, I got a lot of preamp sound from it. I got a lot more grit from it, and just power soak and overall interaction with the amp, which is really cool that now I can have a multi-effects amp processor that works with my dynamic tone now. It's not a one set solid thing. So that's a really, really cool feature and unique about that. As far as some of the other effects and stuff goes, I have a patch here that kind of is bestled with all sorts of fun effects. So we can actually take a look at our iPad over here to see what kind of effects we have going on. So you can tell right away, read it from left to right. You can simply just move your hand over and kind of just scroll over. To turn stuff on, you just simply tap it and turn it off. To edit stuff on the app as far as parameters go, you just press and hold on the effect you want to edit. And then now I'm in the compressor that is turned on for this unit. I can adjust a couple of things. So let's see what else we got going on here. The type of amp we have is actually one of the Boss voiced clean amps. This is a natural amp. So this is going to be your basic clean response amp. A lot of good headroom with it too. A little bit further, we have some EQ going on. We also have a chorus. That probably explains the chorus sound here. So here's what the sound actually sounds like. Really cool. We heard some like pitch stuff at the end. That's super cool. So let's dig in a little bit more and find out what's going on in the app here. So right after the chorus we have here, we got some split dividers going on here. So these are going to be how you effectively use your parallel routing. You can actually see the 4 lines going on here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 with a bunch of different effects in there. So taking a look at some of the effects, we got a lot of delay. So we got some delays mixed in. We also have some pitch shifter stuff, which is pretty cool. So that's obviously the glitching pitch sounds and stuff. And then we also have another pitch shifter an octave up, and then there's another one doing an octave down. So it kind of gives this almost organy type of pitch sound, which is pretty cool. And then we have an additional phaser at the very, very end, which is pretty nice. So that's kind of what's going on a little bit in the sound. Again, all of the patches are completely editable, up to your choice. Obviously, if you want to start a patch from scratch, you basically go to write and you tell it, or clear it, basically, is how you're going to get it to start from scratch, which is just going to be a basic amplifier. Basic amplifier, no effects at all. So that's something a little bit more in the effect realm, which is pretty nice. Let's move on to some of the other amp sounds. I actually dialed in one of my favorite classic blackface amplifiers. And this one I added a little bit of compression. I also have a built-in overdrive I'm going to turn on for this riff, and there's a little bit of delay that I can use at the very end of the chain too. So here's the clean amp sound. So again, really, really nice sounds there, and you can tell that the amp is very, very clean. It's responding, it's compressing in a little bit of a way also, which is really nice, which is what natural clean tube amplifiers actually do. When you dig into them, there's actually going to be some compression that happens there, which is pretty nice. Some of the other high gain sounds I got over here. This one's really fun. We can actually take a look in our app and actually investigate what's actually going on in this patch here. So the amplifiers that we have chosen here is Brit Stack. So this is going to be like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Almost like the note like decays and dies out like a real amp, which is pretty cool. You can hear the gain kind of sloping down as the note is kind of sustaining for that, which is pretty nice, and shows that it's actually reacting like a true tube amp, which is pretty cool. Obviously, I have one of those sounds. Some of the other stuff that I actually have going on in here. Here's one of the actual preset sounds that come with it. This is the 3D chorus. Really cool sounds. It looks like we have a lot of JC120 amps going on here, along with a lot of cores. We got these really cool dividers, which is pretty awesome. Another thing about the unit that I really like, that's a unique feature, is the large LCD display that's actually on the pedal itself. It's actually one of the brightest LCD displays that I've personally ever seen. You can see it in the daylight. You can see it on multiple colored moving lights on stage. It's just a really, really good screen, so that way you can see everything displayed in front of you. And obviously I can change the display just by pressing the page button on the face of the unit to change whether I want to see the words or the numbers or just the signal flow and stuff like that. And also you might notice that on the unit, some of the control buttons are different colors. So all of the LEDs that are on this thing can be mapped to different colors, so that way you have a little bit of a better flow as far as where your cleans are, where your dirties are, what's turned on, what's turned off, and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So another very unique feature about the GT-1000, which I like, which a lot of people that use multi-effects might actually have this same experience, is something called Stompbox mode. So this is going to be a unique feature to this thing, which is pretty cool. It kind of separates it from everything else. So basically what Stompbox mode is, it's not like a traditional Stompbox mode where you press a button and it brings you to like what is a miniature version of a pedal board that's inside, so I can work the buttons like compact pedals. It doesn't exactly work that way. It works a little bit better than that. So what it does is it actually saves parameters to any given amplifier or any given effect that I have built in. So I know, coming from a history of multi-effects, that the one annoying thing that I didn't like about multi-effects is that if you had to change something in all of the clean amplifier patches that you made, you had to go back and do it to every single patch that you made. So if you made 10 clean patches, you had to go back and adjust one small little thing in all 10 patches. It's kind of annoying. But with this feature, which is really cool, so we're going to go back to the iPad, and we're going to just look at an amplifier, right? So amp, so press and hold, it'll bring me into the amp, and then you see up top, on top of the upper right in the iPad section, you have something called Stompbox. So I can basically click on this guy here, I go to select, and I have these Stompbox select patch bay settings. Well, there's already a couple in there, just factory presets, but you can always rewrite them and stuff like that. But basically what it will do is it will write the parameters across all presets. So now if I have to go and pull up that same clean amp, I don't have to dial in the gain and the treble in the middle and the bass, or I don't have to write the parameters on like a piece of paper or my cell phone notes. So it's really cool that I can kind of spread that out. But the other really cool thing that I like, so on the face of the GT-1000, you can control the amp, right? It gives you a bass, a bass, a treble, and a gain knob, right? So you can adjust those things. So if you're in a patch and you are using a Stompbox setting for an amp or an effect and you're controlling it, it will actually cross-write it to all the other presets. So now if I adjust the bass in one of my clean amp patches, it will actually carry over that same bass change to all the other patches, which is really, really convenient and very nice to have, especially if you're a guy that's really getting deep into multi-effects and is writing a lot of, clean patches. I have like 10 clean patches, 10 dirty patches, and 10 lead patches, right? So this can kind of help you out as far as writing your presets multiple times over and over again, or just having the feeling of playing through one singular amp. Everybody wants the clean amp, the crunch amp, and the lead amp, right? So now we can actually get that same experience using what is called Stompbox mode, which is pretty cool. So one of the other cool features that I like about GT-1000 is that it's small, it's compact, it's very lightweight. I can basically throw this right into a gig bag and pretty much be ready on the go with all of my sounds basically the way that I want them to sound, which is pretty cool. So that's basically the GT-1000 for you. You can check out this Boss product and more at craftmusic.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.